What's up guys, it's Necrosen, back in the 23W42A snapshot redstone testing world. I woke up this morning and I had a crazy idea for the auto crafter, and then I had to work for 11 hours. But I've been sitting on this thing all day and now I'm ready to actually try and put it together. So let's see what we can figure out. First off, I need to figure out some of the important mechanics here. So if I have a dispenser, if I have two next to each other, and they both have an item, let's say a dispenser, and I light this guy with a redstone torch, is he then going to power this guy too? He does! I don't know if I like that. Another question, if I put an auto crafter here, is this going to craft? It does! Okay, I actually do like that. So here's my idea. So first we need a downward facing crafter, just like that. 4 dispensers facing into it, like so. A dispenser facing down into it, and then a dispenser facing down out of it. Next we need 2 dispensers facing into each of these dispensers. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, so there it is. The 9 items we've got are these 8 dispensers on the outside, and this one above. Okay, so allow me to explain what's going on here. If we lived in a perfect world and the crafter had 9 faces, then you could insert every item all at the same time and then spit it out immediately. Well, okay, you need a face to power it. So if the crafter had 10 faces, if we lived in... actually, I think 4 dimensions would do it. Then we could have literally the fastest possible crafting output, which would be every other redstone tick. So you need 1 tick to turn it on and 1 tick to power it down so that you can turn it on again. But in our limited world, where we only have 6 faces, the best we can do is 2 ticks, I think. Because you only need to fill 9 slots, and 6 faces times 2 would be 12. So that's more than enough. And in fact, since we only need to fill 9 slots, we can do only 5 faces, then we do 4 and 5, and we can have the last face for powering, which is why it's so important that I can power this block and actually get the crafter to spit out a recipe. Although I am quickly noticing I can't get to the crafter anymore. We'll fix that in a second. I showed in my last video that if you prime a crafter, that is, you pre-make the recipe you need, then it doesn't matter what order items fill in, they will go to the correct slot, as long as you have one more recipe here that you need so that it continues to be, quote, primed. The problem is when you throw in a non-stockable item, such as the bow, which turns this into a dispenser, you can't pre-prime it because the bow will not automatically load into place. Like, it doesn't work. Actually, wait a minute. Did that just give me an idea? So if I preload 1 bow, and I put exactly 1 bow in this hopper, will it craft the thing? Oh my god, that's insane. What? What? Okay, I suppose that's solved. Okay, so now we've got a super simple design for any recipe, including one with dispensers, which I accidentally made last time. But let's see if this makes it faster. So the idea is that 4 of these guys will get powered, and then 5 of them will get powered, and that will enable us to essentially fill the crafter immediately. But the thing about that is, if you look at how long it takes for an item to go from its starting dropper to the crafter, it takes 1, 2 movements, right? And you can't have both of these guys spitting into this at the same time because... well, actually, I suppose you can. So we essentially need an alternating system of torches that can power the outer layer and then the inner layer. And I actually, while I was thinking about this, thought that I would need a 3-step machine because, you know, power the outside, power the inside once, you'll end up with 4 items, and then you need to pop the bow in there in the middle so it ends up in the middle, and then add the other 4 items. So I thought it would be a 3-step machine, but I'm realizing now that we figured out how to get this machine to work with dispensers, we could probably do the exact same thing on this guy. So 2-step machine. And as it happens, there's basically a built-in two-step machine. Look at that. Fastest possible two-step redstone contraption. Oh, that's right. I forgot this doesn't last long enough to power a redstone torch. You need 2 ticks of activity. Okay, this will be interesting. Okay, so redstone torches are out. Then how am I going to power this thing? I think 3-tick system it is. Oh, this amount of directional redstone should be illegal. Not what I made, but the fact that it exists in the game at all. So, this shouldn't be directional. I don't think there's any directional redstone in here. I hope. God, I hope. Yeah, this is a design I came up with that seems to actually work. And for what it does, it is downright tiny. This is the 3-step system. It's powered by this redstone clock here that activates when you flip this lever. The first thing that powers is this white line. It takes advantage of update order, so it powers this dropper, which powers the crafter above it, so that when the crafter pushes its item into the dropper will actually immediately push it out into this hopper, and it'll get loaded into the chest. At the same time, this top line is going to feed the top slot into the crafter so that it is loaded as soon as the crafter finishes pushing its item. Then the blue circuit is activated, which triggers all of these diagonal droppers. And because the diagonal droppers are powered and next to the adjacent droppers, it will also power the adjacent dropper to push its item into the crafter. Then the final line is this green circuit here, which powers these outermost droppers, which again are adjacent to the innermost droppers and push that item into the crafter. So it's constantly moving items inward. There is absolutely no downtime on any of these droppers to activate. And then there is a single tick of downtime which the system needs. And all of that together gives us a total of 4 redstone ticks to craft 1 item, which is in fact hopper speed. So the only way to make this faster would either be to have a bunch of droppers that you're manually ticking as fast as possible to load items into the crafter even faster, or to have multiple hoppers feeding into each dropper, which I can't even imagine what that system would look like. It would just get exponentially bigger. But for the average player, like, why would you need something faster than how fast hoppers can load items in there? Like, that's already ridiculous for 99.9% of players. So if you want to use this system, all you have to do, you go in here, you have to break this dropper, unfortunately, but we'll put it back. Open up the crafter, you need to prime it with 3 of the item that you want to craft, and then you just put the dropper back. And if all of the items in your recipe are non-stackable, it does not matter what chest you put each item in. You just need to have a different item for each chest. So for the crafter, it's got 5 iron ingots, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for example. Then you need 2 redstone dust, so 1, 2, a crafting table, so you there, for example, and then you can put the dropper in the center if you felt like it. One thing you do have to do is come down here, break one of these blocks so you can get to this dropper, and you need to preload it with whatever item that you've got dispensed from above. And then you just replace this block, and you should be safe to turn it on. Just make sure that you click on every single one of these droppers and unload all of the items in here if you plan on changing the recipe that you have flowing through. For dispensers, the way you set it up is a little different. So first of all, still 3 items each, but you can obviously only have 1 bow in the center. Then you want to go to each of these 4 adjacent to the center droppers and place 1 cobblestone in all of them. The other thing that's important for the droppers is you must load the center chest with your bows, and then of course come down here, put the bow in this dropper to get it ready, place this block. And finally, unfortunately, this moves marginally slower than the other farm. You'll actually have to change these 2 repeaters that are on these red wool to 2 ticks. So that does change it to 6 redstone ticks per cycle, which is 0.6 seconds instead of 0.4 seconds to craft. But it's such a tiny difference. But, you know, maybe someone will come by and make that tiny fix. That would be kind of insane. Well, let's just prove it works. Let's turn this thing on. And watch the dispensers flow in. Look how fast that is. And again, it's even a third faster if you have anything other than a dispenser. This will craft any item except for cakes. I just found out you can't craft cakes because they're weird, but who needs infinite cakes? Come on, bro. You're gonna open a bakery, just use the design I showed in the last video if you're gonna do that. Okay, well, that happened because I ran out of bows. If you run out of bows, it stops crafting dispensers, go figure. And then, of course, you can hook up whatever crafter of choice you like to the center to make bows. Just make sure it's a fast one so it can keep up with this machine. Something like this ought to work. So well, in fact, that we're leaking everywhere. So now if we want to run the whole machine, let's turn this on, and turn this on. And we are making dispensers again. And in fact, since we can make bows at 4 ticks, that is faster than what this machine can do, so if we don't want bows flying everywhere, let's set this back to 6 ticks. I think I've made my point. But yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything else with this block. If you can, let me know down below. Peace out.